Hello everyone. So this is a summary of the poem A Valediction Forbidding Mourning. So the meaning of valediction is farewell speech. So this poem was written in 1611 when poet was bidding farewell from his wife anymore when he was leaving on a trip to Europe. Okay, and this poem was published in 1633 in the volume Songs and Sonnets. So now I'm going to start the poem. Now the poet is saying that as virtuous men pass mildly away and whisper to their souls to go. Now he says that virtuous and good people die without making any noise. Okay, they die silently and they whisper to their souls. They tell their souls to leave their bodies quietly. Okay, without making any noise. Okay, and these people are not afraid of death. Okay, and they pass away quietly and gently from this world. And now he's saying while their friends do not want them to die at all, and some of them want them to stay alive a little longer. Okay, come to the next lines. And he wants his wife to take lesson from these virtuous people. Okay, who do not make fuss when they actually die. So let us melt. Now he is saying that let us say goodbye to each other and do not make any noise. Okay, and do not cause a flood of tears and do not cause the storms of sighs. Okay, and now he is saying that by doing so, she is making their love appear to the world as vulgar. Okay, profanation means vulgar. Okay, so she is making their love look vulgar to the rest of the world. Laity is the word. Okay, by you know uh, by mourning their separation. Okay, come to the next lines. Now he is saying that moving of the earth brings harms and fears. Man reckon what it did and meant, but trepidation of spheres, though greater far, is innocent. Now he is saying that moving of the earth, which happens during the earthquakes, cause harm and damage, and people get scared of these earthquakes and they calculate the damage done by these earthquakes. Okay, but the movement which happen in the spheres which are not noticed by people, okay, and which creates no damage, people are not afraid of it because they do not know it. Okay, come to the next line. Dull sublunary lovers love, whose soul is sense, cannot admit absence because it doth remove those things which alimented it. Now he is saying that insensitive earthly lovers, okay, because their love is only confined to the senses, they cannot bear the absence of their lovers. Okay, because absence removes the physical self of their lovers on which their love is based. Okay, so that's why he's saying that their love is not sensual but their love is spiritual and eternal. Okay, come to the next lines. But we buy a love so much refined that ourselves know not what it is, enter assured of the mind, careless eyes, lips, hands to miss. Now he is saying that their love is spiritual and refined, and they themselves do not know what kind of love is this. So their love is mysterious, okay, and they are so sure of each other that the physical aspect of their love, for example, eyes, ears, lips, hands, do not matter at all to them. Okay, and and it is not affected by the physical absence of their lovers. Okay, come to the next line. Our two souls therefore which are one, though I must go, endure not yet a breach but an expansion, like gold to airy thinness beat. And now he is saying that love has fused their souls. Okay, they are not two souls but they are one soul, and if one is going away then their souls are not separated. Okay, their souls are still united even if he is going away. So his absence would not cause any break in their love. Okay, any break in their love. And if he is going away, it only means that his love is going to cover large area, the way when gold is beaten, doesn't break but expands. Okay, and becomes very thin. Okay, so he gives the example of gold, the way gold expands and doesn't break. Similarly, their love is going to cover the large area if he goes away. Come to the next line. If they be two, they are two so, as stiff twin compasses are two, thy soul the fixed foot, okay, it makes no show to move but doth if the other do. And now he is saying that if their souls are two, they are two like the two feet of compass. Now he's comparing their souls to the two uh, foot of compass, which appear to be separate but which are actually united on the top. Okay, and if beloved is staying at home, so beloved is compared to fixed foot because beloved is going to stay at home and poet is moving away, but poet is going to cover a circle and is going to return back to his beloved. Okay, although when poet goes away it seems as if the fixed foot is not moving, but in reality the fixed foot inclines towards the other foot and it becomes straight, okay, when the other foot comes back to the center. Okay, come to the next line. Such wilt thou be to me, who must like though other foot obliquely run. Thy firmness makes my circle just and makes me end where I begin. And now he is saying that the beloved is like the foot of the compass, which remains fixed because she is staying at home. Okay, so she remains fixed at the center and it follows the other foot when it moves and becomes straight. Okay, and again it comes to the center when the other foot comes back. Okay, and now he is saying that his beloved has the same relation with the lover as the fixed foot of the compass has with the moving foot. Okay, and which makes a kind of circle. Okay, and now he is saying that this poet is going to complete this circle and is going to return back to his beloved again after completing its journey. So her love and her loyalty or her honesty will make him return back to her. Okay, until that time she should not mourn his absence, but she should feel happy that they are united in their souls and their love is pure and eternal. Okay, and here the poem ends.